Philippines, the pearl of the Orient of the Seas, composed of 7,640 islands, conquered three colonizers, the Spaniards, Japanese, and Americans, and also known for its breathtaking views and diverse culture. Filipinos are known to be hospitable people who love to have a good time for the family. This often includes getting together to sing, dance, and eat. The annual calendar is packed with festivals, many of which combine customs and rituals from the nation's pre-Christian past with the Catholic beliefs and ideology of the present day. The culture of the Philippines comprises a blend of traditional Filipino and Spanish Catholic traditions with influences from America and other parts of Asia. China, the land of the dragon, was ruled by various dynasties for much of its history. It is home to the oldest of the major world civilizations. Successive dynasties developed a system of bureaucratic control which gave the agrarian-based Chinese an advantage over neighboring nomadic and hill cultures. In 67 Common Era, Buddhism reached China from ancient India. Its focus on personal salvation and meditation had a profound effect on Chinese culture, lasting until today. China also has diverse culture that until now they cherish and pass to one generation to another. This country is also known for its famous landmark, the Great Wall of China, the Forbidden City, and the Yellow River.
When it comes to the literature of both countries, the nation have wonderful and enormous creation, even if it's a short story, poems, essays, and folk songs. Philippine well-known authors like Jose Rizal, Nick Joaquin, Francisco Balagtas, Guillermo Gomez Rivera, and many more artists contributed to big culture and history of this country. On the other hand, China acclaimed writers like Confucius, Amitan, Yang Zhang, Mao Dun, and other writers also play a part in China's diverse culture and literature.
But what if these two literatures blend and form new genre of writing? This is the Filipino-Chinese literature. The characteristics of this literature includes the manner of showing the feeling, filial piety, the attitude toward intermarriages, religions, and conflicts or struggle between life and family.
One of the examples of literary work that contributed to this kind of literature is written by Charles Ong, a Filipino-Chinese writer who lived here in the Philippines. Ong was born in July 6, 1960. He attended the University of Philippines in 1977, where he got his Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. He is a multi-awarded fictionist who has received Kalanka Awards for his short stories. The Trouble in Beijing, Man of the East, Another Country, and A Tropical Winter's Tale. A second-place Philippine Centennial Literary Prize for his novel, An Embarrassment of Riches, and won C. Laya Award for his Best Novel in a Foreign Language, National Book Award for the Banyaga, A Song of War.
Banyaga, A Song of War is all about Ernesto, who is the main character, the one who adopted both of his nephews. Atin, who is the weak one, he cannot survive in the greediness of the customs. That's why Ernesto adopted him too. Afan, who is nephew of Ernesto, the first one that Ernesto adopted. The author wants us to show that it's very hard to forget the past and being one of the immigrants in the world full of sufferings, just like the main character, namely Ernesto Yu. The main attention in the story is about the horrible experience of Ernesto, which he doesn't want to be experienced by his two nephews, namely Afan and Atin.
There is this time that Ernesto is waiting for the apprentice that his brother promised in the letter that is given unto him. It makes him a little bit sad because he remembered how he was treated in his past. When many teenagers arrive, he asks the customs who is his nephew. The custom man told that there's these two young men who is his nephew. He can only adopt one of them. But he remembered that the customs is too greedy, and he knew that Athens can survive in the customs. So he decided to give his watch to them, but the customs refused it. Instead, they wanted the silk. So Ernesto gave his silk and adopted the two young men. The story takes us to the past that cannot be changed. Instead, we can change someone's past for their future. The story also tells us that we need to accept our family members, whatever their imperfection is.
Before we proceed to our analysis, let us talk about New Historicism approach.
New Historicism is a literary theory based on the idea that literature should be studied and interpreted within the context of both the history of the author and the history of the critic. New Historicism acknowledged not only that a work of literature is influenced by its authors, times, and circumstances, but that the critic's response to the work is also influenced by his environment, beliefs, and prejudices.
A new historicist looks at literature in a wider historical context, examining both how the writer's times affected the work and how the work reflects the writer's times, in turn recognizing that the current cultural context colored that critics' conclusions. New historicism then underscores the impermanence of literary criticism. New historicism acknowledges and embraces the ideas that, as time changes, so will our understanding of great literature.
At the beginning of the 20th century, Manila was a colonial metropolis. It was the period when American colonial rule replaced the Spanish colonial rule. An example of a 20th century metropolis where Asian and Western peoples, cultures, and languages collided is colonial Manila. In Manila, there were Indios, Spaniards, Americans, Chinese, and Mestizos. The first few chapters of Charles Ong's 2006 novel, Banyaga, A Song of War, is set in Manila in the 1920s, just after the colonial guards were changed. The story focuses on Ernesto Yo, who overcomes obstacles, one after another, as he goes across Manila, a foreign nation. Ong's book is called Banyaga, a Tagalog word that can imply alien, foreigner, or stranger. It is a fitting title for a book that tells the tale of Chinese immigrants who spent decades living in Manila but was frequently treated unfairly by the local population.
The fictional Banyaga can be viewed as a description and recreation of the historical struggle of Chinese to become Filipino and to move from the margins to mainstream society by participating in both the economic and political endeavors of the country. Ong highlights his experiences from the viewpoint of those who are in the boundaries of history, especially from the perspective of Chinese immigrants as portrayed in the story by Ernesto and his nephews from the customs man.
When the Spaniards arrived in Manila in 1570, they found there a settlement of 150 Chinese. By the time the Americans arrived in Manila at the turn of the 20th century, the time period when Ong's novel begins, there were about 40,000 Chinese in the Philippines and about 117,000 in 1939 as the end of the American regime drew near. The story also states when Ernesto gave his wristwatch and the custom man didn't want to accept it. Instead, he gave him the silk cloth. Historically, silk is one of the most expensive fabrics in China and only wealthy people can buy it. It shows how greedy the custom man is. Thus, the socio-political alienation of the Chinese in Philippine society is not only due to the race and their legal designation as aliens during various colonial and post-colonial regimes, but also from their historic role as trader, middleman, mercantilist, and capitalist.